British Prime Minister Theresa May speaks to the media following the October EU summit on the 18th of October 2018 in Brussels, Belgium. Getty Images. Richard Vaughan. 5 hours, Thursday, October 18, 2018. Theresa May and her European counterparts went their separate ways in Brussels yesterday after failing to break the deadlock to a Brexit deal. The stalemate over the Northern Ireland border leaves negotiations at an impasse and increases the likelihood that Britain will leave Europe in March with no deal. Although both sides made positive noises about the chances of coming to an agreement, EU leaders were desperate to avoid the negative headlines that left Mrs May humiliated after the last summit in Salzburg. There was anger that Britain had gone to the summit with no new ideas. The Prime Minister had hoped her gamble of offering to delay the UK's final departure from the European Union would break the deadlock. Read more. Theresa May and Dominic Raab under fire over retreat on Brexit, meaningful vote, but she faced a ferocious backlash from Tory backbenchers and the DUP after she suggested the transition period could be extended for a matter of months, leading her to row back on the idea last night. And despite the thawing of relations, EU leaders warned Mrs May she must return with more concessions. Downing Street is still open to an emergency summit being called in November, but, without those concessions, no plans are being made to call a fresh meeting. EU response. French President Emmanuel Macron insisted that the ball was still in Mrs May's court. It is not for the EU to make concessions in order to deal with the British political issues. Couldn't be more clear on this, he said. It's now very clearly up to the British Prime Minister and her staff to come back with a solution based on the necessary political compromise. His comments were followed by the EU's chief Brexit negotiator Michel Barnier, who tweeted that he was ready to resume the talks, but warned, an orderly Brexit must include a solid, all-weather backstop to avoid a hard border in ie. Read more. Conservative MP says Theresa May's government will not be forgiven for a generation over Brexit. The issue of the backstop, an insurance mechanism that will kick in the event that neither side is able to agree a future trading arrangement, remains the biggest obstacle to the negotiations progressing. But yesterday's meeting at least marked a clear departure from the bruising encounter in Salzburg, where Mrs May's vaunted Chequers blueprint was dismissed out of hand. Unlike in Austria, European Council President Donald Tusk offered the Prime Minister some warm words, stating, "We are closer to a solution and a deal." In a press conference at the end of the summit, Mrs May said, "There is a lot of hard work ahead. There will be more difficult moments as we enter the final stages of the talks, but I'm convinced we will secure a good deal. That is in the interests of the UK and of the European Union." Mr Barnier's insistence that a backstop must remain all-weather, meaning not time-limited, is ominous for Number 10 as it shows the EU has not shifted its negotiating stance. More on Brexit.